Action, adventure, more action, adventure. So going into this movie, I didn't know what to expect about it because I've never seen any movies related to the Mad Max. This movie is a prequel to the original Mad Max that came out in 2015. So Furiosa Mad Max is about a young girl that gets kidnapped by these group of bikers led by Dementos, who's played by Chris Hemsworth. When I was watching the trailers, it kind of put me off because every time I saw the trailer, it only looked like it was only in one location where you had that sort of deserted, desert looking, setting. And for the most part, when watching this movie, you can see that the trailer is sort of similar to the movie in terms of where it was set. Usually with trailers, you kind of see, well, not kind of see, you kind of, they hint at certain things or they won't show you a lot. But essentially, in the trailer, the setting is what you kind of should expect when you watch this movie. So I'll be honest, this review is going to be heavily impacted on the fact that that I haven't seen the other previous films, so it's going to be based on me watching this and that's it. So my opinion might be a bit different from most people since I haven't seen the other Mad Max movies. From the start of this movie, you see a lot of action taking place. So if you're into action and all that stuff, you're probably going to like it, especially if you like the previous Mad Max films. But then again, it's hard for me to really say that because I haven't seen the other ones. I'll be honest, from the beginning, I was liking the start for the most part. But over time, the setting kind of became repetitive where it's just kind of the deserted island, not island, but like deserted place. So I kind of just got sick of seeing the same deserted locations and the same nothingness, if that makes sense. Because I guess it is a post-apocalyptic like film in it. So I guess what can you expect in it? And obviously this movie was directed by George Miller, so based on the other Mad Max movies that he's done, which he's also done and directed, I guess you can kind of expect that it's going to be, this sort of themed stuff, because I heard that the other Mad Max movies, I mean not heard, but you can tell that looking at the other Mad Max movies that it looks pretty much the same. You can tell it's like the same sort of Mad Max movies from the previous ones, because when you look at the setting and the environments, it's basically the same concept, and I guess post-apocalyptic concept. In a way, it feels like a fantasy movie though, because there's certain set pieces or like locations to where I get that sort of fantasy, Game of Thrones vibes, which is not a bad thing. It's alright, but over time, the more I look at the film, the more I kind of just get bored, because as I said before, it is basically set in one sort of location. Not set in one location, but like the environments all look the same, so you kind of just get bored, at least in my opinion. I'll be honest, I didn't really like this movie. If I'm being honest, this movie was kind of boring. There was a lot of things happening in terms of no dialogue being said, because essentially this girl Furiosa gets kidnapped, like I said, and she's trying to find her way back home in it, and she's kind of in between these two, I guess, antagonists that are kind of beefing with each other, and she's kind of in the middle of it, almost used as almost used like a slave. And then you're basically getting the perspective of her trying to get back home. But at least for me, in my opinion, I didn't feel like she was trying to, get back home. I didn't feel that sort of urgency for her to, find her way back home. Since there was no urgency, at least to me, it felt like there was no reason for me to carry on watching the movie, because the whole point of it was for her to try to find her way back home. And since, like I said before, there's no dialogue, a lot of times you get things like this. And for me, yeah, it's just not really my cup of tea, you know what I mean? It doesn't do much for me, because I'm more of like a dialogue person. Sometimes no dialogue works, but I feel like in this movie for me, it just wasn't working, because there's literally no dialogue being said. Especially with me not watching other movies previously, it was hard to kind of follow up on the story and understand the story, which, like I said, it's more so me than the actual movie, I guess, because like I said, I haven't seen the other ones. Visually at times the movie can look good, but at the same time, sometimes visually it can look bad. Like the CGI and whatnot, it looks somewhat okay, but in certain shots where I'm thinking it just looks kind of like crap in my opinion. At times I liked Dementos, Chris Hemsworth's character, but there were certain other times where I just didn't really care for him. Most of the time I didn't care for him. I didn't really like any other character in this whole movie, to be fair. Like, they were kind of just there and they left, they were there and they left. It just, to me at least, I just wasn't really feeling any of the characters in terms of interest. It was kind of, most of them were just boring to me, so yeah. And this was one of those movies where I kind of had to sit down and think what to talk about, because usually I have things to say about a movie, but this movie there wasn't much to say. I didn't really understand a lot of the things that were happening. There were certain scenes where I thought that person was a good guy, but in a certain scene or a couple of scenes afterwards I was kind of confused, because then this person was I guess on the dark side, and I was kind of confused of why is this happening? I thought that character was good, I thought that character was bad. It kind of got me a little bit confused. So when watching this movie, I didn't really understand a lot of the things that were happening, if I'm being honest. And yeah, this movie was like 2 hours and 28 minutes, but it felt a lot longer because like there were certain parts where I thought it was going to end, but then they kept on like carrying it on. And I was kind of like confused because I was thinking like, is this movie going to be like 3 hours or something? Because it felt like the pacing felt like that. I feel like the pacing wasn't great in my opinion. It kind of felt like it was just dragging out, and I just don't think the pacing would have been as good as I wanted it to be. Like I said, the opening sequence I liked a lot, like at the start of the movie, because I felt like the pacing and the action took off really quickly. I'm not really too much of a fan of action, but to be fair, at the start of this movie, I really did like the action a lot. I don't know if it's based on the Mad Max game, because when I'm watching a movie, the way the characters move, they kind of move like superhuman characters. So obviously when I watched the trailer, it's like seeing the way they were and seeing the way the characters moved, I was thinking it just was like some sort of superhuman, you know, film and whatnot, but I guess they are still considered humans. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. That kind of put me off a little bit, but if it is based on the game, then I guess it makes sense. But when watching a movie, it just kind of put me off a little bit because obviously I'm going into this without really not knowing much. So like, watching certain things like that, it kind of put me off. It took me out of the movie because it kind of felt like they weren't humans and they were like these like robots running around and stuff. Because the way they moved, like I said, it just didn't feel like human characters. But like I said before, if it is based on a, you know, game, then yeah, that's fine. It makes sense in it. But I'm not too sure. If it is, then that's fine, I guess. Like all I'm seeing is things exploding, which is not a bad thing if it's an action movie. But at least for me, the problem I have with action movies is that there's usually a lot of action and not a lot of story. And I feel like for me, this story wasn't that strong. I guess it didn't really matter whether I saw the previous one or not, because a lot of people say it doesn't really matter if you've seen the other ones. You can kind of just watch this movie since it's basically before the events of the 2015, you know, Mad Max movie. And you know, going into this movie, I knew that I probably wasn't gonna like this movie, but I was still willing to give it a chance. And after the movie ending, I was just kind of like, this is kind of boring, to be honest. Didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care what happened to any of the characters. I didn't care about her trying to get back to her family. Simply because I just didn't feel the emotion and urgency for her to get back to her family. I just didn't care about this movie, if I'm being honest. Like I said, it could just be because I haven't seen the other ones and I don't really understand the story properly. I don't know. But yeah, just definitely, this movie wasn't for me. But I guess based on George Miller's work, he uses facial expressions to empathize emotion instead of using a lot of dialogue. Which, I mean, everyone has their own taste on, you know, what they like, what they don't like. And I guess that was just his style of how he wanted to portray the characters and portray the, you know, the emotions. And, you know, a lot of people like this movie from what I hear, which is fine. You know, everyone has their own opinions. For me, I thought this movie was boring as hell. I thought it was whack. You know, I was almost falling asleep when I was watching this, so I was just like, yeah, when is this movie gonna end, innit? Yeah, that's all I got to say, honestly. I don't have much to say about this movie. I mean, you know, it was meh. Not ever gonna watch this movie again. Like I said, maybe if you like the other Mad Max movies, you probably might like this. I don't know. Haven't seen the other ones, but yeah. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a like. Comment down below, see if, you know, you think I'm wrong or if you think, you know, I just don't understand the story properly, which is, you know, that's understandable because like I said, I haven't seen the other ones. But yeah, you can check out my other videos up here. And yeah, man, this is definitely a movie that I wasn't too fond of, but yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? But that's it. See ya.